Hi, I'm Marie, and I'm Christian.
And I'm Noah, and I'm atheist.
And we're friends, and that's okay. Hi, welcome to the second episode of Notorious for Mumbling. As we said, my name is Marie, also known as Marv.
Yes, and Noah's back too. It's me, and I'm also known as Neff. And this is the second chapter of our podcast.
Notorious for Mumbling. Did I already say that?
Yeah, but I mean the title of it is Neff and Marv Stay Unholy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because last time we introduced it late, and it was just a mess.
Yeah, it was bad.
But it worked out. Anyways, So this week is about religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, although controversial, we're going to talk about it. So caution for obviously trigger of controversial topics such as religion and freedom of belief, but caution for language, ideas, and free thought as well.
Yeah, so. I just want to say also before we get into this, if ever it seems like Noah and I are like arguing, we're not. I promise. We're not. One, I think it takes a lot for us to get mad at each other.
Yeah, correct. Again, now it does.
Yeah, and two, just because we like bicker doesn't mean that we hate each other. It just means that both of us really like to debate with one another.
Yeah. And
so like before this was even recorded, there was an instance of us kind of bickering over something. And it was only because I took the opposing viewpoint, even though I agreed with what he was saying. So yeah, we wanted to talk about religion in relationship to stories. So we're going to be covering a lot of different topics like origin stories, our own personal experience with religion and our stories, the idea of parables, kind of comparing religious stories, and then talking about, truths, capital T and lowercase t truth. Yeah, that kind of thing.
And just so the listeners know, Marie's going to take a good brunt of this because she is obviously Christian and knows a lot more of origin stories and parables than I do.
Well, okay.
But I will butt in with my own thoughts and concerns or
I also
truths,
like research.
But that's okay too.
Right, but you're gonna kick us off. Don't count yourself short, Noah. You're gonna kick us off with the definition, right? And a list.
The definition
Everybody
of religion
loves a good list.
Per dictionary.com.
Oh, wait, before we begin, if you didn't catch our first episode, you can find it at either one of mine or Noah's websites.
And what's your website, Marie?
It is inkysquares.com. INKYSQUARES.com.
Beautiful.
If you scroll down on it, there should be two pictures. One says writing and the other one says podcast. And you click on podcast and it'll take you to all of the posts with all of the links to our audio. So you can go check that out now. By the time this podcast goes up, that will be all set up. I was having some trouble with the embedding of a video on my website this past week, and so I just haven't really finished it yet, but it will be there. I promise you. What's your website?
My website is noahjsandel.com, and that is NOAHJSANDEL.com. I have a tab for it that takes you down the page, or you can just go down the page to Notorious for Mumbling, and it's there, and you can listen to it there.
Perfect.
We're thinking about putting it public on YouTube.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, I put it on the post on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, so she did. But we're thinking about putting it public on YouTube, so then more people can listen to it. If you guys think that's a good idea, we'd love to hear from you. My email is njsandel@gmail.com if you want to email me and have any ideas or thoughts or
Mine
hate
is
mail.
marielikesthings@gmail.com. So you can hit me up on that. Isn't that terrible? It's not terrible, but I have to put that email on resumes.
I've heard very, very poor ones. Like
Eagle
Strikes Again 96.
Oh, he does.
Oh, I don't know what's so special about 1996 and the Eagle. Very, very patriotic millennial. Well, not kind of.
Yeah, we'll get there.
End of road millennial.
Anyway, back to the main focus of this podcast.
Religion.
The definition. Hit us up with that nice word, origin.
Of course. Again, before I was interrupted by Marv, the definition of religion per dictionary.com is noun. A set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, especially when considered as a creation of a superhuman agency or agencies, usually involving devotional and ritual observances, and often containing a moral code governing the conduct of human affairs.
Whoa.
What a mouthful.
Yeah, that is a mouthful.
Yes.
So what do you... Break that down for me. What does that mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like what do you get from that? Like that is a lot of words happening all at once.
You're not wrong.
I know.
To me, it's personally just the easiest way of saying it is a belief in a higher power of sorts.
Okay.
That sets one's value or belief system.
Okay.
Or helps govern them.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty fair way to define it. So with that, I think before we even talk about religions, we should know what like present day religions are, specifically the most popular. So it's currently 2018.
It is.
What are the most common religions? You did some research in this.
Yes, from theregister.co.uk. Unsure exactly what year this was published, but it was asked and they answered. The world's top 15 religions. Number 1 is Christianity. Yes, and then Islam. And then non-religious, they're counting as religion in this study, which is secular, agnostic, and atheist. Okay. And then Hinduism, Chinese traditional religions, Buddhism, primal indigenous religions, African traditional and diasporic religions, Sikhism, Juche, Spiritism, Judaism, Baha'i, Jainism, and Shinto.
Got it. I feel like, as terrible as this might sound, it's kind of what I expected.
Right. I mean,
I feel like I expected Judaism to be higher.
I agree. This is just from one website.
Yeah, we didn't really do a lot of
cross-referencing. Don't take this to heart. Like, oh man.
We are not scholars.
Or if you're a neo-paganist, for instance, you're like 19 on this list supposedly. So like be aware that like if you do believe in something, if you follow a religious practice.
It's on that list, we just didn't say it.
Yeah, because this is just one site.
Right.
So again, don't take everything we say at heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I expected Christianity to be first.
I expected Christianity and Islam to be pretty close.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that as a Christian. I think it's just like in Western culture, it is the most predominant.
Right.
Like just any in general.
I agree.
Yeah, Noah, tell me a little bit about your faith background because, like we said, I identify as that's a terrible joke. Oh my god. I'm a Christian and Noah is an atheist.
Yeah.
First, before we like talk about our like religious backgrounds, when I talk about my friendship with you, not even to other Christians, but just like people in general, and I'll like mention you're an atheist. Not even like it matters. You should.
It's just I'm going to hang with Noah the atheist.
No, but like if I say like if I'm just like talking about maybe it is just like specifically with my Christian friends, but I don't think of them as like just my Christian friends. No, but when they're talking about like, oh, in my like history class, like there was a guy who was like bashing on the idea of creationism and like I don't know what I'm supposed to say to them. And it's like or people are like, oh, I don't know like what I would say to like people who are non-believers who are like totally going against everything I believe. And it's like, well, they're people.
Right.
So you just treat them like people. Like and I like mentioned like one of my best friends is an atheist. People are blown away.
And which is kind of a surprise to me.
It kind of makes me laugh because people are blown away by the fact that I can have such a good friend who's an atheist. And it's like, well, doesn't that like become an issue? And it's like, not really.
Literally never.
Yeah, honestly.
It's never been an issue, I think.
Yeah, here's the thing is like, Noah and I have had our fair share of like rough spots in our relationship.
Yes, we have.
But religion has never, ever, ever been a basis for any of them, which
it has not.
Is not baffling to me, but I'm sure is baffling to other people. Maybe that makes me a bad Christian.
Or maybe it just makes you a good human.
Exactly. And shouldn't those be the same thing?
Per scripture.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
Love thy neighbor.
But who is thy neighbor?
Exactly.
White
landowners.
We'll get into all of that later. But do people, I don't know if you ever like talk to other people about
religion?
No, about how you have friends who are Christian. Do people find that weird for you?
It's not like I only hang out with, like, I mean.
It's just the atheists in the back alley, like Jay chilling.
Like, I mean, yes, like the other two people I would consider friends, one's confused, I would say. They just don't know where exactly they land. And the other one flip-flops between agnostic and confused.
Okay.
Which is fine. You should always try and keep on discovering yourself or figure out exactly what you believe in. But in terms of does it ever come up that like I have Christian friends and I'm an atheist? Not really. It's this, again, trigger warning, just for controversy. I don't think it ever comes up because, I mean, I don't believe that you should not talk about religion to people or even strangers. I think it's a good way to get to know someone in general. Agree. Same with like politics and stuff like that. They say those are 2 things you shouldn't talk about to whatsoever.
Wow, you get to learn so much. Those are definitely
in my top 3.
I want to know who you voted for.
Right. And it's obvious who I voted for if you know me. But that is a different conversation.
Yeah, we'll get to that eventually.
We'll definitely cover. But I think the reason why it never comes up is because I would say that atheists and or non-believers aren't really, from what I've experienced, people who, again, trigger warning for controversy. I don't think it comes up a lot in non-believers or secularists because I don't think we're the group that per se judges those for having any belief of thought in terms of that, thought of beliefs, I should say. Normally what atheists have experienced that it's opposite, to where if you have a lot of people of religion shame you for not believing in a higher power of sorts. Yeah. And really, I think every atheist has a friend that is a Christian or has a family that is Christian or grew up Christian.
Probably, yeah. I think it's also a conversation, like the idea of like, oh, I have friends who are non-believers only happens if you are a believer. Because if you're a non-believer, you're not concerned with everybody's salvation. Like, let's just be honest. Like, that's not a big concern. And in Christianity, as someone who's raised Christian and like, we'll get to like the story of our faiths in general, but like went to Christian summer camps, like the idea that you are talking to people whose salvation or who does not have salvation, like that's kind of a big deal in the whole idea of Christianity. Yeah, and so I think it's very interesting. I just wanted to know your perspective if that's ever been like, oh, I can't believe that like I can have a friend for nearly 4 years and have them be an atheist and have it never be an issue. Right. And it's like, well, I don't think I look at Noah and say like, here is my friend Annie, the funny one. Here is my friend Mary, the compassionate ones. Here's my friend Noah, the atheist one. Like, I don't do that because it doesn't change who you are as a person.
No, for the most part,
but some people would say.
Not. For some people, it completely morphs who they are.
Right.
On both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and also, just let it be known, me being atheist does not mean I'm a Satanist at all.
Right. Like, Noah does not do any devil worship.
Like, I don't believe in Satan either.
Satanism is a real belief, though.
Correct.
Like, that is a religion. It is
a religion.
Like, you can worship the devil.
Yes, and a lot of people,
that's not a joke.
I think, that aren't versed, I would say, at all in any type of religion. Yeah. Often think they're synonymous. Yes. And they're not.
Right, I would agree. Would you say you're a nihilist?
You've asked me this. Okay, I'm not saying yes to that. I'm saying yes as
have I ever asked you that before?
Yes, you have asked me.
When?
Yes. It was last semester you asked me.
I forgot.
Yeah, I would say I'm probably not a nihilist. Okay. But I could see myself maybe eventually going to the path of nihilism at some point. Just when I decide to just fully give up. Okay. Not like I'm like judging people who are nihilists at all. Like I'm saying it because I get it.
Like, homie, I've been there.
I understand completely. Right. But like, for instance, I went to a march for climate justice in Indy this weekend. Yes. And it ended, we're having basically a town hall, basically is what it was, in a church in Monument Circle. And my brother's talking to me. I'm like, actually, it's part of the church that had like the pride flags up. Last month or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, right there in the circle.
Yeah,
like,
I
literally
do.
Right there.
Literally right there. Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you're probably right," and it was. And I think a very respectful thing that occurred is that Riley and I are both atheists, my brother and I, and we went in. He was very cautious initially. Like, he was a little uncomfortable, and I go in with it. Was like, okay, I have background in choir. I had to sing in churches before. Like, it's just another thing. I mean,
it's just a building for
what
you.
atheists do, though, we make jokes when we enter churches. Like, oh, well, that we're gonna burn on fire, you know, like.
Yeah, where's the lightning?
But we sat in pews, you know, and that changes it completely because it wasn't just like a conference room in the church, you know, like we were in the pews in the main like sanctuary. So, but a very respectful thing that occurred is that the preacher, priest, etc., that introduced us, he said, I'm not going to give a morning like prayer to you guys at all. Like, that's not my place right here. But I just wanted to let you know, you guys are all welcome in this house.
Yeah.
I'm like, I respect that. Like,
I admire
good job, church. This specific church.
That's all you should be doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I respect that as an atheist, that viewpoint of understanding potentially your diverse crowd.
Yeah, like this church, that's like a big thing for me is I don't think the church, the church is not a building, it's a body of people.
Right.
That's like the general idea of a church. And so everyone is welcome in the building because it's just a building. And like the whole idea of religion is like supposed to be acceptance,
right?
AKA the golden rule, like do that whole thing. So I think that's very admirable. Everybody should feel okay walking into a building that is designed to be a church.
Yes.
Because
I mean, we're all humans,
right?
Ignoring our higher belief system,
right?
We're all just humans, and you shouldn't look at us either way as something different. And that's a very important aspect, I think, to religious acceptance. Yep. Or a religious acceptance. Yeah. So.
Okay, so back to the main point before we got on this whole thing is, what is your background in religion at? Because now you are an atheist.
Yes. I mean, I've been atheist for a while.
So what happened? I'm kidding. How did you get to be an atheist?
Yeah. So my origin story is, so again, we covered it a little last episode. So go back and listen if you haven't. And my background is the fact that, I mean, I went to church when I was younger. I think we stopped going about when I was 5, and it was a United Methodist church. And at the time, I mean, it is seen as like the most open form of a Christian sect. And we went there in Concord, North Carolina. What's up? Shout out North Carolina. But we stopped going because of a familial issue with the like preacher's family. Oh. The way a stepmother treated stepson.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was a big mess.
I would like to say that no one I've talked about faith before.
Yeah.
But I didn't know this about you.
I mean, I believe this was the issue. Again, I was 5, so like I didn't have any say in what
you don't know all the
really.
secrets.
So like it's within my family, and that bothered us to an extent. So we stopped going. But either way, before that even, my parents let us have a more liberal view, a more open view to religions or lack thereof. I mean, my dad, I guess technically, I mean, he grew up Catholic. My dad did. And he stopped practicing Catholicism around 13 or 12, I think. Okay. Just personally, he decided, okay, this is definitely not the right thing. I think at that point, he might have come agnostic, I want to say. He's atheist now as well. Okay. I think Riley and I have pushed that forth in a sense. I should say not forth. Like, we didn't press him to become
like, you're going to be there, so you're going to like it.
Let's say post 5 years old, what occurred really. There were many instances by which I had friends in school that are like, hey, I'm having this tricks function. You want to come? And I was like, oh, yeah, like that'd be awesome. Like, hey, mom, can we go to church? She's like, yeah, if you want, as long as like they give you a ride or, whatever, something like that. I mean, I never went.
Is that just because you're not a people person or just because you aren't a religious person?
Yeah, I think it's actually the average of that, I want to say. Potentially is what I found out. Yeah. So I would say I became an atheist around 5th or 6th grade. Wow. Yes.
Starting them young.
Of course. It's just where I stopped believing that any prayer would be answered. Right. Whereas there is no one listening. For me, this is just my story again. So why would I take my time and thoughts to something that isn't being appreciated in some manner? Fair. That's a one-to-one personal story. Yeah. So then I became an atheist, and then I was like a closet atheist for a long time. Really, like, and that sounds like hilarious, but like I was. I mean, it's at the time you didn't talk about it. I mean, let's say this was middle school. I mean, that's true. We didn't openly talk about religion. We had other things to worry about.
You like silly really bands?
Stupid. Oh my! I hated silly bands.
They were a big deal.
Man, they were. Yeah. Freshman Ball State, they had Cardinal silly bands.
Really?
Yeah, like they were still there. I'm like,
embarrassed.
Why? Yeah, we should be.
That's tragic.
It's what made me decide to come to Ball State.
They had silly bands. I needed it for my collection.
So yeah, I was like a closet atheist for a while. A closet atheist. By the time high school rolled around, / 8th grade, I guess, 8th grade, a lot of things changed for me, I guess I should say. Got broken up with.
Oh, that'll do
very
it.
long, like 2-year relationship. Didn't end well at all. But I think a lot of it made me change certain ideologies. And then went into 9th grade and we moved again.
Mm-hmm.
And that took a toll on me as well. So at that point, I just started to like either, as you know, I closed myself off.
Yes.
Significantly.
Yeah.
An impenetrable shield I had on. But at the same time, I was also fairly open about my controversial views. Like, I think you knew what to expect when you saw me.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, I would agree, actually.
You know, like, I mean, people look at me and they automatically think, okay, that dude's a stoner. Like, I'm not. I don't smoke weed. But, like...
You kind of look it.
I give off that general vibe.
Yeah.
Of that's definitely a liberal.
Yes.
In the political sense and social sense, I should say. Whereas atheism often falls under the liberal social sense as well. You don't see many conservatives that are atheist. So...
You're not wrong.
Yeah, so as it went on, I started speaking out more about it as people started speaking out about it because during Obama's term, a lot of people started being a lot more open around our age.
Yeah, you're right.
In general about their thoughts. And it continued into 2016. I think we live in a much different world than we should be in right now. But I believe in a sense that as a community, we might be... I don't want to say better off, but maybe safer as a collective because we have these open views and concepts that we figure out other people agree with. So that's where I am right now, trying to figure out exactly what other realm I can exist in addition to my current communities. What else can I add?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that can be within the religious or a-religious communities. I mean, at BSU, we have a secularist club, and I was invited to it. I didn't go. They had free brownies or whatever, but...
Not good enough.
I don't want extra sugar when I don't need it. So yeah, that is my origin story really.
Fair.
It's just over time, it grew from freedom of thought and personal experience. And that's where I am now is that I'm an atheist and I don't foresee that changing because for a lot of people, that's an extreme. So I don't see me going down any to soften that. It could, but I would be just as surprised as anyone else if it were to.
It's a miracle.
But Marie.
Yeah, so hi. My name's Marie.
Hello, Marie.
Yeah. I am your pretty standard like white Christian girl story. Let's just put it out there. Okay, I was born and raised in a middle-class white family in a very nice town, now city.
It is secondhand city.
And I grew up going to church. Like I did. I grew up going to church. Both of my parents were raised Catholic, but my mom didn't practice Catholicism anymore. She kind of had a few issues with the Catholic Church. My dad still goes to a Catholic church. Yeah, she took us to... Isn't it terrible that I don't even know what I would call the denomination? It was like a very modern church.
Okay.
Presbyterian, I think is what they call it. I don't know. So I grew up going to like the kids ministry there and going to eventually the like middle school youth groups and then the high school. And we kind of stopped going to that church specifically in, I think, my junior year of high school, if I'm right. It might have been my sophomore year, but I'm pretty sure it was my junior year because of issues with my mom and the church, actually. Like, just issues with the leadership team and, like, a change in, like, hierarchical?
Hierarchical's
like,
the word.
Sure. And change in order and, like, who was in charge and, like, that's her story, and I don't really feel like I have the right to talk about it. But... point being, we ended up leaving that church. However, I had been attending a Christian summer camp since 6th grade. Spring Hill, what up? I love that place. Not only just for like the religious experience, but also because summer camp is great. And I'm a big believer that every kid should go to summer camp. Like, I think you learn a lot. But yeah, I was going to summer camp in that time so like once a week up until high school. And then you had a 2-week program. And their main goal was just focusing on like building a personal relationship with Jesus. And when you are really young, it's kind of hard to build a personal relationship to something that you don't understand. You're like, pray, like, yeah, I'll pray to you. Like, I knew I have to pray before my food. I knew I should be nice to people. I knew, like, don't steal and, like, slyly respect your parents, you know, like, they always throw that in. And I knew, like, the stories, and I knew about, like, you should love yourself because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think these were things that I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm a Christian because my mom drives me everywhere and because I like my church. Like, I liked going to church. It was fun. But I didn't know who Jesus was, and I also didn't know if I liked myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Spring Hill really changed that because I started to understand that, like, this whole idea of Christianity specifically wasn't just me going through the motions. Like, if I wanted to get something out of it, I had to really try and focus on building a personal relationship with Jesus, which is like you thinking about like, okay, this is great and I know all these things, but how does it impact me? Mm-hmm. Like, what do I do with all this information? How does this affect Marie? That's my name twice. Like, but what does it do for me? Like, why me? Why would Jesus want to be with me? And I think I just like really kind of understood that. I really understood the idea of like, I need grace. Like, I am not a good person in general. Like, normally I make bad choices and I don't really know what I want in my life. And kind of when it comes down to it, people will say that faith is kind of something that people go to when they don't know what to do.
Right.
And I would agree, but I also don't think there's something wrong with that. Because I don't think that I have all the answers. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I could figure them out myself. And I think that there's too many coincidences in the world. Mm-hmm. There's too many small things that occur for it to just have happened by the Big Bang. Like, it's hard for me to imagine. So yeah, in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, freshman year, sophomore year, building a personal relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I had kind of some hard stuff happen, like with my writing and with my self-image. And faith was really pivotal in helping me realize that like I am worth something and I have a purpose for being on earth. Whether that be to like spread the word in the kingdom of God or just to like know that I have value somewhere. Because like even though all these other people don't like me, like I still have a God who loves me. And that's really cool. And then like Noah, junior year? Shit, now I won't even remember. Junior year or the beginning of senior year? Oh, which was it, Marie? I think it was I know it was. It had to have been the beginning of senior year, because senior year was the worst year of my life.
I mean, it was a hard year.
Yeah, but it had to have been the beginning of senior year. This is another conversation for another time. Noah and I are both laughing, but for reasons that no one. Anyway, I went through a really terrible breakup with the first boy I ever loved, because he cheated on me at a party.
Of course. It was senior year.
Yeah, it was. You're right. And that kind of rocked a lot for me. Like, I really didn't know what to do, because it sounds really hard to talk about, because I really hate that this was like what happened, but I also don't hate it because it's who I am, blah, blah, blah. But I had like put a lot of my identity in this relationship with this boy, and it was really weird to not have that anymore. Like, he is gone, and
he's not dead.
Yeah, he's not dead. He's still very much alive, but he was out of my life.
Yeah.
Well, at least I was pushing him out of my life. And I knew that I couldn't be the person that I was with him or who I was before him. And I didn't know who I would be now. And I kind of went through an identity crisis my senior year of high school. And it was really hard. It was a really hard year. I did a lot of things that I don't know if I regret them, but I definitely am not proud of them. And I hurt a lot of people. And I hurt myself in a lot of ways. And it's something that still probably affects me almost 4 years later. And it really shook up my idea of faith, because I didn't know why. I didn't know who I was. And I didn't know if I was worthy of anything. And I didn't know why a boy that I loved would want to hurt me so badly. And I didn't know why I would be worth anything if this thing would occur. Why would I be worth anything if somebody just wanted to not respect me? And it kind of gave me this idea of like, well, if I am not in control of my life and these things are happening, then like I don't need a God to make decisions for me. Like there's that poem, I'm the master of my, it's Invictus. I'm the master of my fate. Yep. I'm the captain of my soul. Right.
Yep.
Like that, that's what I was like, this is it. Like, I'm in charge. I'm the boss now. And it went really terribly for me. Like it was really bad. I think because I felt like I had lost control over my relationship and my identity and who I was, that immediately everything I needed control of again. I needed control of my feelings. I needed control of other boys. I needed control of my decisions in life. I needed control of my schoolwork. And faith couldn't give me that, because faith requires you to just be like, okay, God, you got this. Like, I don't, this is not in my hands. And I freaked out and I didn't want that. So I came into college really low, really, really low. And it sucked. And I got involved with the campus ministry. And I got into a relationship with a different boy, which I think was really good for me. I think that relationship was very handy at that time. But I did end up going to Spring Hill, that same summer that I broke up with this boy who cheated on me, I went into that summer with like this feeling of like being lost. This was the summer before my senior year. I was given a book by this counselor who is really great. His name was Obadiah, and I love him. He's the greatest man ever. But he gave me a book by Henry Nouwen, who is this like philosopher writer. And in it, he references a verse in Mark. It's in all of the Gospels, but specifically Mark, which is, there's a scene where Jesus is being baptized. And once Jesus comes up out of the water, a dove comes down from heaven, and everything gets silent, and it's just a light on Jesus. And the dove says, like, "You are my beloved son with whom I'm well pleased." And the whole idea is that the Lord speaks directly to me and says, like, "Marie, you are my beloved daughter with whom I am well pleased." And I think I needed to hear that, but I don't think I was ready to accept it senior year. And it wasn't until college that I really started to understand what that meant. So like I said, I started dating a second boy. I fell in love again. I got involved with the college ministry, and I kind of had a bad experience there. But the whole time I was kind of relearning what it meant for me to like believe in something again. And I had to be responsible for my own faith, and I had to be responsible for owning up to it. And I think what made me want to try again was I was so unhappy my senior year that I was like, this can't, me being in charge is not working. And there has to be another way. Like, I can't be in this swamp anymore. Like, I can't do it.
So what did you do?
I spent a lot of time praying and not getting any responses and feeling like this is stupid. And so then I just started writing again. And I think that's what happened is like, I would be journaling, and then it would turn into a prayer. And it was like, oh shit, like what is happening? And I just realized like I needed somebody to talk to. And I think I went into the idea of like faith without expectations.
Okay.
Because I think if I'm waiting for God to answer me, I'm going to be let down. Yeah. And I talked to my mom a lot, and she was really helpful just in the idea of like, well, faith doesn't have to be like a set of rules, blah, blah, blah. But I think really what changed was like my desire for something more, and my desire to know that like, if me being in charge doesn't work, then what will work? And I can't put my trust in myself, because when I do that and I let myself be the boss, people get hurt. And I need to accept the fact that like, yeah, I got my heart broken and it sucked, but it doesn't mean that I am not worthy of something. And it just goes back to like the insecure me when I was younger of like, I just wanted to feel like I was valued in some way. I have a really big issue with feeling insignificant. Like, that is a fatal flaw. I will fully admit it, but it's okay that I feel insignificant, because if I don't, then like that's a bigger issue. My issue was like, I put my value in other people too much, and I'm let down by them. And what am I not let down by? And I am not let down by the love of Christ, ever. And it's really comforting to know that I have forgiveness and grace. And I will say that my college ministry isn't what taught me that. I had a really kind of weird experience with college ministry. I love my college ministry. I met my best friends in college through college ministry. I half met my current boyfriend in this college ministry, but I had a really rough experience in college ministry with those friends and with the people who tried to lead me, and with how they accepted my relationship with my current boyfriend, and which drove me to then seek a church just in Muncie. And now I attend Common Way Church in Muncie. They have a website if you want to check it out. It's really cool. And I met the college pastor there, and they showed me a lot of grace of like, you can be a person who made a lot of mistakes and still be valued. And so I think, to be fair, as of like junior year of college is when I finally felt like I can be a happy Christian again. I think I was very scared of Christianity for a long time, because I was always feeling like I wasn't worthy of Christianity. And it's really only recently that I'm feeling that again, and that reading the verse of like, I'm the beloved daughter with whom he is well pleased has really started to like be applied. So I'm still learning. I have a lot of issues morally with the church that I like discovered within the first like senior year to like now. But yeah, that is my background. That was really long. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think something that you talked about earlier, when you started having certain issues, you mentioned problems with how you view yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And again, we discussed in chapter 1 that Marie and I are very similar in a lot of ways, but we react in different ways.
Yeah.
And this is one of those times. Whereas whenever
we both didn't like ourselves.
Whereas whenever she had issues and she had trouble with self-image, it somehow strengthened her bond with religion.
Right.
And with me, it did a lot of the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like a really fat kid, and
I'm sorry.
like it's hilarious. Yeah, obesity is just not an epidemic.
It's not funny. I think it's just funny because it's you. That's even worse.
But even when I started losing weight, like I didn't regain that confidence back, and still haven't. I think part of me staying on the course of atheism was definitely because of my past self-image reflections, even how they are today. But I think it's really interesting the way that you brought that up and how we connect it to what was previously said about us.
Yeah. When I felt insignificant, and when I do feel insignificant, I don't think my immediate reaction was to like, oh, I gotta pray. Like, it wasn't that, but in some way, shape, or form, I was eventually like brought back to this idea of like, I don't feel loved by a boyfriend or a family member or a friend. And like, why is that? And it's because like, well, people can't give me the satisfaction of love that Christ can. Mm-hmm. What really grinds my gears in Christianity is when people like refer to themselves as broken people. Mm-hmm. Because I would rather say like, I am being fixed in Christ. Not like I'm broken and I need Christ, because like, I'm not broken. Like, I'm constantly being fixed and being made better. Yeah. I'm not just like consistently just like a pile of like cogs and springs. Like, they're turning me into a robot, but like not really. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm being like, you're being fixed. Like, you're being made new.
Right. It's a very optimistic way to look at it.
Yeah, and I don't want to keep saying like, oh, I'm broken, because why do I have Jesus Christ if I have Jesus Christ because I'm broken, but because I have him, I am being fixed. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have to move on.
Yeah, we do. We do.
We'll talk about this over lunch sometime.
Yes. Okay, listeners, this chapter is in 2 parts. Our personal stories with religion, which you just heard, and stories within religion. So make sure you listen to part 2, well,